Okay, so I did kind of a deep dive on Elon's management style.
Okay.
Um, so I've got some interesting stuff here, but I'm curious to like initially just hear your reaction to like what do you think his management style is? What have you heard? Just kind of give me your initial thoughts there.
Well, in previous talks, I've heard you say that he likes to just ask how, his engineers are doing, like what they're working on, and like just kind of get into the details of things a little bit. And then, I mean, it seems to me like he makes changes like on the go, like, hey, this could be better. Let's do it now. Send the word. This is done. He kind of makes like little detailed changes, like very on the go. I've just felt and maybe even seen, but and then as far as like management with like actual personnel, how he treating them, like I've heard he can be pretty like strict and demanding as far as like super high just quality of performance and things like that. But at the same time he seems like a pretty chill guy. So I think with most people he'd be pretty reasonable, but at the same time expecting a lot of everyone. I'm not sure how the workplace culture is or, the vibe that he brings to everyone else, but he seems like for the most part, he's chill with people and but expects a lot out of everyone. So
Okay, so I from what I've read, I don't think there would be a single person that would describe his management style as chill or him
yeah,
being chill
okay,
with people.
okay,
But no, I get why you'd think that. I mean, he seems like the sort of outward persona he projects is
yeah,
kind of like he likes memes and he jokes around a lot, so he's kind of
yeah,
like
a cool
maybe a lot of
guy.
people
Like,
identify with him, but
yeah,
um, so I did a deep dive and I kind of wanted to like create like a if you wanted to try to replicate Elon's management style at your company, whatever it is, here are the main thing. Here are like the main staples of the Elon management style. Um, ultimately, like I guess management, or I think more aptly, like you could say, like leadership, is really just kind of at its core. It's like the set of activities to reward and punish certain behaviors in order to achieve some result. So like what are you going to tolerate? What are you going to motivate with? And then what are you going to punish like negative, ultimately to like sort of craft your team and the individuals and focus them towards some goal.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so kind of the principles that I've gathered from this are pretty interesting. So far I've got five, or actually I think I got seven. So let me read these to you. The first one is the idea of being hardcore. Have you heard anybody talk about like Elon's hardcore uh, sort of expectation? So
I mean, he's pretty extreme in a lot of things, but
yeah,
yeah,
very
he's
very extreme. He so hardcore in Elon's terms is like working really hard at high intensity um, for an extended period of time. So when he earlier on at Tesla, I think this was when he was facing like the Model 3 production ramp, which just like they were really struggling to produce Model 3s at scale to meet all like the pre-orders and stuff, and company was about to die. But so I'm gonna read to you one of the emails he sent to his team when this happened. This is crazy. Alex, you're gonna like this. All right. So he sent an email that said, please prepare yourself. So the subject line was ultra hardcore. Please prepare yourself for a level of intensity that is greater than anything most of you have ever experienced before in your life. Revolutionizing industries is not for the faint of heart, but nothing is more rewarding or exciting, and I will personally make sure that those who produce exceptional results are rewarded exceptionally, as is fair and right. And then he sent a follow-up email saying, please talk to your spouses, children, relatives, and friends and explain what I've said in this email. So that was his ultra hardcore. It's like, just be ready. This is gonna suck, but
mhm.
it'll be worth it.
That's
And so,
that's kind of dope. Like I'd be there for it. Be like, let's
right,
do
right,
this.
and yeah. So Elon has this like mantra of being hardcore. All of his companies, he at some point he like sort of that's his thing. Like if from the way he perceives like working hard is like this idea of being hardcore. Um, it's not just like clock in, do your job, you're good at this job, you just clock in, you do your job, and then it's it. No, it's he's like, we're all hardcore. Every single person here is like, this is my life. what I'm doing here at Tesla or SpaceX or XYZ company, this is my life. I'm hardcore. I'm in it. Ultra hardcore level of intensity that I've never experienced before in my life. So I found that interesting. And then, so another example of this is recently when he bought Twitter, he sent out an email to the team with the subject line, extremely hardcore. So, as you know, when he bought Twitter, a lot of people ended up leaving, a lot of people got laid off. So I'm going to read to you a couple pieces of this email. But he says, basically, going forward, to build a breakthrough Twitter 2.0 and succeed in an increasingly competitive world, we will need to be extremely hardcore. This means long hours at high intensity. Only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade. Not an A+, a passing grade, right? So like only exceptional will even allow you to keep your job. And then he basically says, if you are sure that you want to be a part of the new Twitter, please click yes on the link below. And it's a Google form and it's just one thing. And it's like, I want to be a part of the new Twitter and be extremely hardcore or something like that. And then yes or no. And then you submit. And that's the Google form. And so basically anybody who wasn't a part of it just like quit.
Yeah.
And then the end of this email says, if anyone who has not done so by 5 p.m. tomorrow will receive 3 months of severance. Whatever decision you make, thank you for your efforts to make Twitter successful. So he basically immediately he steps in and he says, here is the bar. And he sends like a Google form. He's like, if you're not on board, goodbye.
Yeah.
Which is kind of savage. I mean, at the end of the day, like for the people who worked at Twitter beforehand and they had an expectation of how work was going to be there, probably sucks for them if they're not on board with the new Twitter. But I mean, he had a goal and he went out there and he just like incisively just cut anybody out and he completely reset the expectations, which I think honestly, that's what you have to do if you're in a position like Elon was, where he had a very specific vision for what he wanted Twitter to be. And ultimately he wanted it to be a very, very lean sort of culture of excellence. And then ultimately to make a platform that was going to promote free speech, like absolutism. So
Yeah.
that's sort of principle number one, is being hardcore. Principle number two was communication. So, and I'll kind of lump in here hierarchy / bureaucracy. So at all of his companies, he like tries to avoid hierarchy wherever possible. He tries to avoid bureaucracy. Communication should never flow through a disinterested intermediary, meaning like someone who is not directly has like an interest or like an impact or specific opinion on something. It should go directly to the person that makes that decision, and information flow should be direct. So, yeah, that's like one of the main things. And then another thing was just sort of communication with Elon directly. People would say that like whenever you're talking with Elon or in a meeting where Elon is present, you need to be extremely concise, direct, and your point should be very clear. And then the rule of thumb is like you have to make your point within 30 seconds. So basically, if you're ever going to be interacting where Elon is present, you have to be dialed. Like
Hey, Elon, hey, what's up? I want to tell you something. Well, how was your day, by the way? He'd be like, what? How are you doing though? Good. How was your weekend? You ready for this weekend?
Yeah, none of that.
What
None of
was I
that
gonna
at all.
say?
Wait, I forget what I was gonna say. Yeah, so that was another thing, is like he's extremely like incisive and kind of like the core heart of the issue that you're trying to discuss needs to be very clear right up front. And so I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like principle number two, is like communication / bureaucracy. Being like, you want to eliminate bureaucracy. Information flow should be directly between like stakeholders for that, the topic for which the information is pertinent. And then the third principle is this idea of key engineers. So Elon is kind of notorious for having like an engineering centric culture at all of his companies, meaning like anywhere the engineering is being done, like the engineers should be like the key decision makers, design drivers, like lifting up engineers is like the most important thing. And this is actually very popular amongst like lots of other um I don't know, really, really successful companies. Like Facebook, I know is like this. I think Apple was a lot like this early on. I think over time they kind of morphed to be more like sort of product and design centric, but Elon's very much like engineering centric. Like everything is done to like like lift up engineers and let them be very autonomous and make their own decisions.
Mhm.
Um, but this idea of key engineers is really important. And basically, what it means is Elon will ruthlessly cut the fat such that the only people that are working at his companies are like 100x engineers. Have you heard of this concept of like 5x or 10x engineer? Have you heard of that concept, Al? Okay, so in the world of software, but also I'm sure this exists in other engineering disciplines, but the idea of like a 10x engineer is somebody who can get done the work of 10 engineers by themselves just because of like sort of intelligence or experience or just knowing what tools are going to be most useful or what design decisions are going to yield achieve a result with
Mhm.
a significantly compressed like timeline or effort input, right? So that's the idea of and Elon takes that to the extreme. He says I only want 100x engineers, only 100x engineers, and we'll just have tons of 100x engineers. Basically, what one company can do with 100 regular engineers, I'm going to be doing with one engineer, and I only will
Mhm.
hire those people. Um, and so I thought that was really interesting. And it's fascinating too because like in like highly regulated and I don't know, think about cars. Like if you design some important system incorrectly or there's some policy decision you've made as an engineer that could yield like you could cause a car to crash or the steering wheel to like not turn when you spin it. Because I don't know if you know this, but I think like Teslas are all like electrically actuated like steering. So like if I turn the steering wheel, it's not like a steering column. I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it's not like a steering column. It's like an electrical signal that tells the wheels to turn. So it's like lots of like reliance on software and the hardware that runs that software to be functioning properly in order to safely operate the vehicle from like the end user's perspective. So this idea of 100x engineers I think is like really really critical because it basically means that you need to have people that not only are good at like doing the software and like actually building the thing, but also like documenting and like making decisions and making stuff that can be maintained by other engineers. So it's like you basically need someone to be like their own like you are the CEO of your own personal services organization and you are like making your own decisions and documenting and like creating like policies and when I say policies I mean like sort of embedding like decisions into software. So it's like if rotate steering wheel 90 degrees, rotate wheels 90 degrees. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by policy, not like, company policies. But the point being is that like 100x engineers at Tesla are making lots of decisions, but then they're also like building stuff in such a way that it can be maintained by future engineers. So there's like many, many layers to being like a 100x engineer. It's not just being able to code really good. Like that's not the extent of this. So I thought that was really fascinating. So that's like
Gotcha.
principle number three, and then principle number four is maximization versus optimization. So what do you think I mean by
Yeah.
that? Before I jump into it, have you heard
Yeah.
of?
Just like kind of like really honestly potentially multiply out and go for more volume as opposed to making it perfect. So that's my initial thought on it. More volume over perfection of a system potentially.
Yeah, exactly. So um, optimization is like getting the most output for your inputs, but that doesn't always mean
Yeah.
you're getting the most absolute output,
Yeah.
right? You may not be getting the same like total output, but
Yeah.
you're getting the most output for your input. But maximization is just how can I get the absolute most output? So
Mhm.
meaning you basically it's the idea of like work hard or work smart. Elon's like, do both. I
Yeah.
want you working really hard, and I want you to be the type of person that is able to do it at an extremely high quality. So you're going to work 80 hours a week, and you're going to be doing it like you're going to use your time in the most optimal way possible for those
Yeah.
80 hours. So, and I mean, this is, I don't know. I think all of like the great like kind of tech companies have this philosophy as well of like, it's not just about making good decisions, about making good decisions and making lots of them. Basically, it's doing lots of work, but doing it with really high quality. So, um, Elon is definitely a maximalist. He's like, just get as much done as possible, and that is you're going to be required to make efficient use of your time in doing so. Um, which I think is interesting because it's like, how do you motivate people to do that and sustain it for a long period of time? Because like even the most disciplined, like smart people, it's going to be hard to motivate people that are, I mean, they're going to be working really, really like he said in his emails, like crazy intensity that you've never experienced before, but
Hmm.
you've got to do that, for a sustained period.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I find that to be a very challenging thing to balance. I mean, generally speaking, like if you're working a lot and you're making X amount of dollars, but you're working double, like if you're working 80 hours a week, you're just kind of getting paid half per unit time. You're right. Like if you're
Hmm.
working 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours, but you make the same amount of money, you're just kind of making less money. So I don't know. That's an interesting one, but it's definitely one of his pillars is like maximization over optimization. Like he just wants the most total output rather than trying to like be cute with it, as some people like to say.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the final pillar is ruthlessly cutting loose non-excellence. So like firing anybody and being very, very incisive, like no BS, not gonna waste time thinking about this. It's like if I got a whiff of non-excellence, you're out, like immediately. And so what he like, yeah, he'll just lay off entire departments, or like if there's like a group of people that are just like not producing results, all of them are gone. Um, so that's another thing
Yeah.
of him, just being absolutely ruthless with non-excellence. And the thing that's interesting here is like, yes, for like some people, this could create like a fear of job insecurity. But I think Elon is like thinking like I mean, and from the things I've read online about people that have worked at Tesla and SpaceX, it creates this kind of like pride where the people who hang around have weathered that storm. And so they're like proud to be a part of an awesome team that's like, yeah, like I've made it and I've not gotten cut, and I've seen other people get cut. And um it's sort of, for the people he wants to keep, it has a positive effect. Whereas like the people
Hmm.
who are worried about job insecurity, like Elon doesn't want those people working at his company, because if you're worried that you're going to lose your job, like chances are you're probably not even cut out for this, because the people that he wants to keep are the people that are so motivated that they're just happy to stick around. They're like, I was here. I'm proud that I've stuck around. So
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, and then you're left with only those winners, right? And then like you just have this
Yeah.
pot of like absolute killers.
Yeah. I feel like all of those create a great culture of just like we're not tolerating BS. Like everyone knows what the deal is. Like everyone's expecting excellence, don't mess around. Everyone's like kept on their toes, but in a good way to where, you know what I mean? And it's none of that like corporate bloat where it's like, people just chit-chatting amongst each other like, yeah, I don't know if I want the new Twitter to be like, I don't really know, but I'm still here, I'll do my work, but it's going to be like resentfully and stuff. Like everyone there after that type of initiation is like they're on board with it 100% and they know what's up. Like he knows to set expectations right off the bat very firmly and set a high bar very firmly. Everything is just super firm. Like there's no messing around at all. So, and I think just having that expectation and that, you do need a little bit of that oomph and that fire under your butt. And I think for a lot of people to like realize what the deal is. And when you lose that respect and that fire under your butt as like a manager, like that's when your people start to kind of slack off. And that's why they need to, I guess, quote unquote, respect you, right? And you need to have that a little bit of that hard edge of like, no, this is we're expecting this, every single time, or else like you're out type of thing. I know in some organizations it's hard to potentially replace those folks, because now you're getting to the point where it's like, all right, if you're talking the talk, why don't you walk the walk and fire, this group of people, and it's like now you got to do the work of replacing them, etc. So I guess my follow-up question, Christian, would be is, does he also, if he's firing fast, does he also hire fast, or do you know anything about how he takes on new people, or is it just simply a good attraction from his brand and everything?
That's a great question. So, Elon's hiring policy is basically you need to figure out a way to demonstrate to us that you there was a quote. He said it so clearly. He was it was like um oh, okay. He basically said, "You need to demonstrate to us that you're capable of exceptional abilities." That's basically what he said, is like, if you've got projects in the past that you can talk about that demonstrate your exceptional ability, then that'll get you in. I don't care where you went to school, I don't care what you studied. Demonstrate to me that you have exceptional ability for the role that you're applying for. Um, and so that's kind of his hiring policy. I don't know exactly how he does it. I'm sure like they have recruiting teams at Tesla and SpaceX, but demonstrating exceptional ability is the sort of key thing there. Um, and yeah, so I don't know. So here's the fascinating part that like challenging to me is like working at one of those companies sounds exhausting in my mind, because like I don't see like the personal upside from putting in those crazy hours. If it's on my own thing, 100%, I'm gonna be extremely ultra hardcore. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm like expected to do that like at a big company, what's my upside personally? And so as I dug in, I kind of started to understand why people want to work there. But I also understand what like those companies have, I mean, they have churn. The great and like there are great people that have worked there and they're like, I love those companies, but I just couldn't sustain it. Like I want to just get a more chill job after this. But I did my time there and I'm super proud of the work I did. And I have nothing but respect for Elon and for the companies, but I just couldn't maintain. You know, and I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty standard story for people that are ex Tesla or ex SpaceX.
Mhm.
And I and basically here's the carrot and the stick of working at Elon's companies. So the carrot is lofty goal, right? So yeah, I don't think you can pull this off unless you have an extremely ambitious company mission. Like if you're like revolutionizing how, like data gets processed for, HR recruiting firms. Like I don't know, like there's just like some like like company visions that you just can't make sexy enough to like warrant the crazy commitment from employees. Like I just don't think you can do that with certain company
Mhm.
missions.
Mhm.
Um, so the first carrot is like you're contributing to something that's going to change everything for the world.
Mhm.
I mean, making life multiplanetary, that's obviously a huge mission. Accelerating the adoption of sustainable transportation and energy, that's a huge mission for Tesla. Also, just like being the only car company that has been successfully launched in the last, yeah, I mean, only Ford and Chrysler are still around, and Chrysler went bankrupt, and Ford is the only car company that has been successful in the US, basically. That's it. Tesla's the second. Um, and now Tesla's finally profitable. So anyway, point being is the goal, the company mission needs to be so aggressive, so lofty that you can just motivate, like people just want to be a part of it. They want to be able to say, hey, I did something really, really important with my life and I was a part of it.
Mhm.
And I was looking into compensation because I was like, I don't like hear great things about Tesla or SpaceX compensation. Like we all obviously hear about like working at Google or Apple or Meta, compensation is fantastic and the perks are awesome. Um, but and I think the reason people don't talk about the comp at Tesla or SpaceX is because the working condition, like you have to work really, really hard, even though you may be getting paid well. Whereas like Google, Facebook, like there are like tons of stories of people like working both at Meta and Google at the same time, secretively remote, working 20 hours, 10 hours a week at each company, making 350K or whatever, like some crazy salary, just basically doing nothing. Um, And that's like the sort of, that's why we think of those companies as giving great, you know, really, really awesome comp. But I was looking at like Tesla and SpaceX comp is still very competitive. But I think the reason we don't hear about it is because, you know, you have to work really, really hard. So how do you balance this? So I'm gonna float this by you, but I think the calculus here is actually very clear. Like I think I get why people still want to work there, and people still continue to work there. So let's say I can get a job at Google and I can effectively shirk most of my responsibilities and work 20 hours a week and make 200K. That sounds awesome for a lot of people because it basically means I can be lazy and get paid a huge amount of money to be lazy. But I think it was Aristotle that said one of life's most pleasurable experiences is using your intellect at its greatest capacity. And doing that with other, and I think like doing that with other really smart people is just so enjoyable. Like I really do think that like it's extremely satisfying and fulfilling to just know that you're just utilizing your mind at its peak capacity, and you're doing it for a mission that's worthwhile. Right?
Yeah.
Like imagine I was using my intellect at its peak capacity for, I don't know, developing OnlyFans. You know what I mean? If I'm like the software engineer for OnlyFans utilizing my brain at its peak capacity, like it's just less
Yeah.
exciting. Like I don't know if that mission is as exciting as like making life multiplanetary. So
Right.
basically, you're getting paid very good comp. It's like, you know, apparently 20% above national average for pretty much most of their positions. So you're getting paid above market for a lot of stuff that you do there. But you're also working toward an awesome mission, and you're doing it with other smart people. And it's, you know, arguably one of the most fulfilling things you can do with your time on earth ever is just to like use your mind at its greatest capacity. And I think for a lot of people, like maybe this is a contrary, maybe this is not a popular opinion, but I think a lot of people don't even know what that feels like. I think a lot of people go through life and they don't even know what it feels like to actually push themselves to the limit. And they don't realize
Mhm.
how like actually fantastic that feeling can be. And so I think a lot of people from the outside will look like, that's why Tesla and SpaceX get a lot of criticism, and people think like, they outside looking in, it's like, why would anybody want to work there? This is like crazy. Elon's a horrible person. But I think like you just don't get it. Like you don't know until you've done it yourself. And you know, like working towards something that feels super worthwhile with other really smart people can just be intoxicating. Like that can be such a fun experience.
Yeah.
Um,
And actually
but
feeling like you're performing at a high level, you know.
right, right, totally.
So,
Also, not to mention like the fact that like I think to our core, a lot of us realize that like one of like the life's purposes is just to like like create the most like superhuman version of ourselves, like stack up the best tool sets, like fill up our tool belts with all the tools and be like the sort of optimal version of ourselves. Like that kind of feels like life's purpose for a lot of us. And working at a company like that, dude, the amount of like tools you add to your tool belt, working that hard, pushing your brain to the limits, you definitely become like a soup. Like it's almost like a training camp for anybody that just wants to like improve themselves. I would imagine, like from a engineering perspective, obviously from a health and stuff, maybe not. Maybe from a family perspective, maybe not, because maybe you're spending a lot of time at work, not with your family. But I can see why people, I was trying to wrap my head around like, why do people want to work there? Like it sounds like you're getting paid like maybe not that great because I don't hear any good things about comp, but you're also working really, really hard. Why would anybody want to do it? Why do people continue to stay there? I think I get it now. You know, I think like all these things together like make up like the carrot of the carrot and stick for working at Tesla. The stick is very simple. You get punished, it's literally getting fired. Like I think that's the stick of working at Tesla or SpaceX. There's not like a, oh, like we're
mhm.
gonna slap you on the wrist and give you, you know, less responsibility. It's like you're sorry, you're just not cut out for the team. So there's really only like these set of motivators, and I think it's like working with other really smart people, pushing yourself to the limit. You get paid well at these
Great
companies, but you
mission.
are working
Yeah.
intense hours. Um,
Yeah.
Okay. Then the final thing that I found really interesting, I didn't know this before. I've not heard about this working at these companies, but rapid promotion. If you are detected to be like a standout engineer, they're going to put you in a place of more responsibility very quickly. Whereas like this is not common at most big companies. A lot of people are sort of looking out for themselves and trying to keep their own job and like do your job. Like, this is your scope of responsibility, stay inside this scope. But at Tesla or SpaceX, as soon as you are detected to be like a high performer and that you can do more and you're under leveraged, they're going to promote you and move you up and give you more responsibility, and obviously more comp and more upside. So I think that's a really cool thing as well, is like, a lot of companies, they're slow to promote, but not at Tesla or SpaceX. They're going to move you up really quickly if you're detected to be someone with high abilities.
Gotcha.
So anyway, love him or hate him. That's my Elon management style guide. Those would be the principles. I'll go through them one time really, really quick. So being hardcore, eliminating bureaucracy / making communication ultra efficient, and then only gathering key engineers, maximization over optimization, firing non-excellence, and then those are the key pillars of trying to manage like Elon, lead like Elon.
Very cool. Very insightful. Yeah. I want to implement like kind of that higher standard, for any team that I take on, just have that expectation like, hey, we expect a high standard and anything less will not be acceptable. But, unfortunately, it's hard to enforce the stick side of things that often, like, all right, well, you're fired then, and it's like, now I have to go actually find somebody, and I'm not Elon with 20 different people banging down my door to start working for me, so there's a give and a take there, but
I think there's also a piece of this that like a lot of this I don't think works at most companies. Like you
yeah,
you really do need to have like an amazing mission to get that kind of to
yeah.
implement this system.
But just
Um,
having a high standard and like being clear about
oh yeah,
that is good for most people being like, okay, this guy like expects something out of me, It's not like if I
totally.
mess up a couple times I'm gonna be fired right away, but at least like your team will know to put some pep in their step. So
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, I think for a lot of companies, like if the mission is just like we're going to create a great place to work and our goal is to what I like imagine this, right? Let's say you have a boring company mission or you're not building something super exciting. If the goal is just to like, oh, we want to create a company where we all make a lot of money, we all get a really cool like work culture that's fun, exciting, um, doesn't have to be super intense. Maybe we are more focused on optimization and we're just focused on like, let's get as much done as we can very quickly. And we understand that sometimes that means putting in crazy hours in order to get the payoff down the road. So like if I'm going to put in 1 week of intense hours, I'm going to get those dividends over the next 3 months and I'm going to be able to work 30 hours a week over the next 3 months just because I put in tons of work up front to set up the systems and tools or whatever, build the software or the tools that you need to like automate a lot of stuff in the future. So like if your goal is to just make a really awesome place for people to work and you've got an awesome crew, you don't need to build like some super visionary thing. Like you don't need to have a crazy company mission, but high standards, only hiring key engineers, right? Like 100x people. I think you can still build an awesome company and be wildly successful. Share the upside, let other people win with you, and I think you can still have tremendous results. I think like this Elon management style really only works at companies with like a very aggressive, lofty vision.
gotcha. Yeah.
That's the topic.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next time. Peace.